Welcome to an all-new episode of SJHL Insider on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks so much for tuning in. Of course, last week we had a week off because of the SJHL Showcase. We were in Warman, and as a result, we weren't in the studio to record a show. And of course, we had those last two games of the SJHL Showcase. It was a great event, and but we're back in studio, and we're set to go. Busy weekend upcoming in the SJHL. So, but before we get into all that, let's thank our sponsors. Of course, SJHL Insider is presented by UPL, but also our other great sponsors, Bordeaux, Cantera Seeds, Capital Auto Mall, Chevrolet, Great Western Nutrient, RBC, Saskatchewan Construction Safety Association, SAS Lotteries, Tourism Saskatchewan, UPL, Sask Energy, SGEU, SGI. Thanks so much for your support. Without your support, these shows would not be possible. And of course, on Mondays on SJHL Weekly, our good friend Jamie Neugebauer looks at each one of our sponsors. Go check that out. SJHL Weekly on demand on our YouTube. Clark's here too. We say hello to Clark. Clark,
hey,
how are we
guys.
doing? Have you recovered from the showcase?
I was just about to say, it feels like to say that was done a week ago sounds crazy. Like, it feels like we're still doing it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's been a lot slower, obviously, for us on our side of things. But that was such a great event, such a fun 4 days. Busy, obviously, especially for their production crew in the back. Shout out to everybody on the production side of things and the Flow Hockey TV production side of things that we're very happy with, and all the broadcasters and all the great people putting on the event as well. And yeah, it's crazy that was a week ago. That finished a week ago.
It's true. It did finish a week ago, but I will say the 4 days probably felt like 4 weeks sometimes. It was very lengthy.
At moments, yeah. At moments.
Long days for the team, but the good news is we do that event just once a year. Anyways, without further ado, of course, that was over a week ago. Let's talk about this week in the SJHL, but without further ado, go ahead, Clark.
They were ready for it.
I know.
All right, time for the hat trick. Thank you, Jeremy.
All right.
Topic number one, of course, we got to look at the last couple days. So, Jeremy, let's recap Tuesday and Wednesday.
Okay. Nip win 6-1 over Melville on Tuesday night. And then Humboldt and Weyburn decided not to play defense. It was the Humboldt Broncos 8, the Weyburn Red Wings 6. I have a thought, actually, on that game we'll get to in a second. And then you go to Wednesday, and I got to say, that Estevan Notre Dame game, that's the type of hockey game you want to play for over 1,300 school kids in attendance for the afternoon game. We'll touch on that in a sec. And then Melfort snapping Balford's 10-game winning streak, which we'll, of course, talk to with our guest, Marty Martinson. And, of course, all of our recaps are presented by Sask Lotteries. The quick thought I had about the Humboldt and Weyburn game. That's 4 games in a row, unfortunately, for the Weyburn Red Wings. They've given up a lot of goals. Which is, but I will say the last 2 games, they've scored 6 goals. So it's not as bad. But a lot of goals given up the last 4 games for the Weyburn Red Wings. But Humboldt gets back in the win column after 3 losses in a row.
3 in a row, yeah. And, you know, I'm looking at the stats here. Spencer Bell had a big night, hat trick there. Bryson had a nice night. Van Belaricom continues to find the stat sheet as well. And again, we've talked about Humboldt, how often this year is there just a balanced attack. They got so many guys that on any given night could just kind of take over and be the star of the game. You know, they have 3 solid lines of guys who could really do that. And let's go even as far as saying 4. Cage Newens, even, you know, he's under the radar this year, and he's one of the best players in the league. So it's crazy how deep and talented they are. You know, I'm thinking back to that amazing play at the showcase, that was play of the week last week. Connor Miller just coming in and doing his thing. And they've got so many guys that, like I said, on any given night could kind of just take over and do their thing. So good to see Humboldt get back on top. 8-6, crazy game. And you know, probably, like we say it all the time with games like that, not one that coaches love, but, you know, fans are usually pretty intrigued with the nights like that.
I'm sure Scott Barney was just happy to get the win.
Get out of there with the win.
After 3 losses in a row, especially in Weyburn. Tougher building to play in. And then, of course, yesterday, Wednesday, of course, Melfort snaps Battleford's 10-game winning streak. I kind of want to avoid that because I want to bring that up with our guest Marty Martinson, the play-by-play voice of the Battleford's North Stars. But Estevan getting back in the win column with an 8-5 win over the Notre Dame Hounds. And as I mentioned yesterday, good job by the Estevan Bruins and their staff for putting on their Hooky for Hockey, their first ever Hooky for Hockey game at Affinity Place. Long story short, there was over 1,300 kids at that game. And if you watch the highlights, if you go to SJHL, or if you go to the SJHL YouTube channel and you watch the highlights, a lot of kids in attendance, great atmosphere. And guess what kids love, Clark?
Hockey games.
Yes. What do they love in hockey games?
The treats.
Sure. Has nothing to do with the game, but sure. Goals.
Goals. I knew where you were going. I was just.
They love goals and they love excitement, and obviously they get to hear the goal horn go off. They get to see everything going on in the jumbotron. Outstanding job by the Bruins organization for their Hooky for Hockey game. I personally love them. I think every team should do them for the most part. Should do those game days if you can. Of course, it's a big undertaking for sure.
Yeah,
but it is a great event, and it looked like everything went smoothly, and I'm sure they'll do it again.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, as a guy with a game day production background myself,
it's been a hot minute
for sports. Yeah, it's been a minute, but having been adjacent to these types of school day games in the past, the logistics behind it are...
Yeah, it's a lot more than just...
There's a lot there.
Hey, kids, come.
Yeah.
It's a lot
you got to organize with
the
the schools, the buses, all the stuff. But I have never heard anyone have a bad experience with a school day game. It's always fun, and this one was just amplified by the fact that there was, 5-0 in 10 minutes? I think it was 5 goals in 10 minutes.
It was 5 goals on 9 shots.
Right, to start the game. So, I mean, I saw a ton of videos. I know a lot of people in Estevan, obviously, from my days there. Ton of videos, ton of Instagram stories, people sharing it around. That's what you want from that. Ton of fun. The kids got a great experience. And guess what, Jeremy? They'll probably want to go back again for more. So,
with a game like that, that's the type of game that you sell tickets for.
And how do you get fans? You get the kids to want to go.
There you go.
Parents. That's how it works.
All right, so good job, Estevan.
Great job.
Your Hooky for Hockey game day. Let's move on to point 2 of the hat trick and the SJHL standings. And we wanted to talk about the standings, at least I did, for a big reason. That's because today it marks exactly 2 months into the SJHL season. So let's pull up the SJHL standings. Obviously, the Flin Flon Bombers, 18-1-1. They're leading the charge. 37 points. They also have the least games played. That'll probably be changed after this weekend because they're pretty busy this weekend. But you see a battle between 2 and 4, only 3 points separated. Nipwin's trying to get into that upper echelon group as well. Of course, they've won back-to-back games. But then you have from 6 to 10, separated by 4 points. Heck, 6 from 9 are all tied with 22 points. It's very exciting. I guess for Clark, I guess your thought on just 2 months into the season, what stands out and maybe what surprises you in this when you look at the standings?
Yeah. So I think right now, as we look at it on this graphic right now, Battleford's stands out to me because they have been so hot over the last couple of weeks. And, the last time we've done one of these standings looks, they were like 5th or 6th in the league. So the fact that they're now jumped over everybody, now, they've played the most games, but since the return of Kean Bell, that team has just looked electric, and they continue to just climb the standings week after week. So that's what immediately jumps out to me, just because for most of the season so far, it's been Flin Flon, Humboldt, Melfort up there, and Battleford's has jumped over top of them in the last stretch because they've been so hot. The biggest surprise to me is, I heard you guys talk about it a little bit during the showcase and since, but it's L'Orange. I mean, I just did not expect them to be a last place team at this point of the year. It just seems to me like there's something going on, and we've talked to Braden Malsbury about it. We've heard from people around the situation where they're scoring goals, and it's there's struggles in other places. So that's the biggest shocker to me, I think, is just seeing L'Orange down there. I mean, they're tied for last. They're not technically right in last, but that would be my biggest surprise.
When you look at from 6, 7, 8, 9, obviously all 4 of those teams tied with 22 points. Right now, obviously, the unfortunate thing is when you have 4 teams that tightly contested, unfortunately, if the playoffs start today, one of those teams is going to miss the playoffs. And even you got to throw Yorkton obviously in there too. Only 4 points back. But the fact that when you look at those 5 teams, including Yorkton from 6 till 10, that's the entire Viterra division.
I was going to say.
Plus Kindersley.
Yeah, it's a party
and
in Viterra.
What it does is it makes all those games between all those Viterra division teams that much more important. And spoiler, 2 Viterra division teams play each other this weekend.
There you go.
But anyways, we'll get into that in a bit. But that's your look at the SJHL standings right now. There's a lot of interesting storylines. We could go up. I mean, we could probably talk about that for half hour, easy, when it comes to the SJHL standings. But point 3, the hat trick. Let's move on now to the leading scorers. We haven't looked at the leading scorers in the league in quite some time. So let's look at the top 10 SJHL leading scorers, point scorers, and it's not a Flin Flon Bomber at the top of the SJHL leading point scorers. So let's take a look. Let's pull up that graphic. Ryan Duguay, the Melfort Mustangs.
Oh,
that graphic is wrong. That's
136.
Completely wrong.
Wow.
Oy vey.
Well,
Yeah.
if you take out the one, just put your hand over the one.
Well, and the team's wrong.
Yep. No.
So maybe we won't put that graphic up.
We can still talk about the list.
Yeah, you can take that down, guys. That's wrong. That's wrong. Got to proofread those.
Yes.
But Ryan Duguay leads the way. 19 goals, 17 assists, almost a goal per game. Obviously, 4 Flin Flon Bombers from 2 to 5. Kean Bell has climbed up the ranks.
Jeez.
He's tied for 6. Braxton Buckberger, Mason Buchert, Keegan Ingram, Ben Portner. Clark, aside from the North Stars, because Marty is going to be joining us shortly.
Yes.
Obviously, I think for me, what stands out with these top 10 scorers is there's 7 players from the Sherwood division. A lot of goals coming from that division. And then the other 3 from the Nutrient. There's nobody from the Viterra division in that top 10. But the fact that Ryan Duguay, 19 goals in 22 games, it's very impressive.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he was one of the guys when we were doing our little SJHL fantasy draft with Rory and Nugsy a while back there. He was a 6th round pick, Ryan Duguay, in that draft. Which, looking back, I mean, Rory got him, so that Rory's leading. There's no surprise there when you do that math. But yeah, Ryan Duguay's a guy. I remember him coming in last year, and just he's a nice contributor last year. He put up numbers. He played really well with Melfort when he came, and then just as a returner this year with guys like Zach Summers, Aiden Hutchinson, all the guys that Melfort had coming back. He was kind of that, maybe 4th or 5th guy, but he's done nothing but contribute and kind of lead the way for those guys all season long. And when you're scoring at a goal per game pace, it's hard to overlook a guy like that at this point. So unbelievable start to the season by Ryan Duguay.
In 39 games played last year, Ryan Duguay had 13 goals and 24 assists for the Melfort Mustangs, 37 points. That's almost a point per game. In 22 games played so far this season, 19 goals, 17 assists, 36 points. So 1 point off of last year's mark. And now he's almost a goal per game. So there you have it. That's your look at the top 10 scorers right now in the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League. But it's time to now go to the video chat line where we're pleased to be joined by the play-by-play voice of the Battleford's North Stars, Mr. Marty Martinson, coming in hot. Marty, how we doing? Did you get enough sleep last night after the bus ride back to Battleford's from Melfort?
Well, first of all, I just got to say a big hello there, and thanks for having me on there again, Jeremy Clark and the team over there. Yeah, you know what? I'm pretty blessed. I have no problem. I'll close my eyes, sitting up straight in the bus. I finished that post-game article. I close my eyes, lean my head back, and I'm out. So, yeah, no shortage on the sleep. And then back in the office today here, just doing this one on my lunch break. So it's been fun, right back to the grind, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
Hey, you're one of the hardest working guys in the SJHL, Marty, and that's what we love about you. Well, first and foremost, let's talk a little bit about yesterday's game. Obviously, Melfort snapped the North Stars 10-game winning streak. Just your thoughts on the game last night.
For sure. Well, first of all, I mean, credit where it's due. You look at this Melfort Mustangs team, and I think everybody knew heading into the year they were going to be a real power in this league again. And they're one of the elite teams. I don't know if they've been lower than fourth really outside of maybe a game this season. So, they brought their A game there in the last one. And again, not to make excuses for the Battlefords, but that was, I think, the seventh game in the last 10 days for the team. So, been a lot of hockey here as of late. And as I said on the broadcast at the time, there's an adage as old as sport itself that you can't win them all. And for the Battleford North Stars, a little bit of a tough one last night, but that's going to happen against another one of the league's elite teams.
For sure. I have to ask you, obviously, prior to yesterday's game, the North Stars got a bit of a blow. Justin Merrick getting called up to the Portland Winterhawks in the Western Hockey League, and as a result, it's kind of created a little bit of shuffle when it comes to the goaltending situation in North Battleford. Maybe can you just explain exactly what has kind of happened in the last, 72 hours for the North Stars in between the pipes?
That's right. Yeah, it's not a junior hockey season without guys getting called up, guys getting moved around a little bit. And obviously for Justin Merrick, I mean, you look at his numbers, what he's been able to do again this year. It's easy to forget, but like last year in his first year with the North Stars, he had a .934 save percentage. Like he had a real heck of a year, even as a rookie last season. And then this year, obviously, started the season in Portland with the Winterhawks up in the WHL there. And for him, I mean, just picked up right where he left off. I mean, second in save percentage in the league, second in goals against, and right up there, only just the 2 losses so far this year. So for him, obviously, to get called back up at the major junior level, obviously exciting opportunity for him. And though I know the whole team's wishing him the best, and certainly myself the same. And at the same time, this is a new opportunity. Like the coaching staff of the North Stars always say, when a guy's out, that just means new opportunity for different guys to step in and fill in that role a little bit. And for the North Stars, we saw Joey Hocko back in action in that last game there just last night in Melfort. He's one of these guys, rookie in the SJHL. I know we talked about him heading into the year, just 5'8". He's not the biggest guy in there, but you see that compete on a night-by-night basis. And then obviously for the Battlefords as well, looking to kind of fill in that spot left by Merrick, brought in a new face as well in Ben Dardis. And he's one of these guys still awaiting his debut with the team. From what I understand, obviously, he's coming over from Minnesota there, played in the North American Hockey League prior the last couple of seasons. And he's another one of these guys, maybe not the biggest guy, 5'10", but I remember I was talking to him after his first practice with the team on Tuesday. And if you want to catch that article up on Battlefords now as well, it was posted earlier in the week. And just talking to him, he could not be more excited to join this group there. He said, right off the bat, guys, we're welcoming him in. So I'm excited to see what he's got there. Obviously, new opportunity here. But as we saw with this Battlefords team, I mean, so many different players can make an impact with this group. And, they're going to be up for the challenge. And I believe the expectation is that once maybe things get healthy upstairs there with Portland, Merrick could very well be returning to the team there. I believe that's still the expectation. So for the time being here, for the North Stars, looking to hand the reins to these couple of guys here in Hocko and Dardis. And I expect nothing less than high compete level. And from the North Stars, same old, same old. Another day at the office, different guys stepping up every day. Yeah,
it'll create an interesting situation when that situation happens of Justin Merrick coming back from the Portland Winterhawks with the 3 goaltenders. But another player returning, we have to talk about it, is obviously, and you and I had definitely talked about it at the SJHL Showcase off air, and that's obviously the return of Kean Bell back to the Battlefords North Stars lineup. Obviously, he's made a huge impact since returning. He has slowed down his 3-point pace. He is now down to 2.5 points per game. But I mean, to add the reigning SJHL Player of the Year, reigning SJHL MVP of the year to come back into your lineup, obviously, it's no surprise that's been a big catalyst for the North Stars when it comes to the turnaround this season.
Yeah, I mean, Jeremy, you just hit the nail right on the head. I mean, adding a guy like Bell to the lineup, he really is the ultimate game breaker. Talk about, 54 goals in 51 games last year, 102 points. I mean, just makes it look so easy when he's out there. And I think with the goal scoring, that's obviously the big headliner there. He's the first North Star to score 50 goals in a season in over 30 years last season. But I think what's maybe lost a little bit, and what I always like to point out on the broadcast when I can, is for Kean Bell, he may score every game. He's got 12 goals now through his first 11 games again this season, but he's actually a pass-first player. And he's one of those guys, every time he's on the ice, he's not only so good himself, but he makes everybody out there along with him so much better. And you really see the confidence kind of reverberated throughout the lineup. And that's been a huge boon to this team. You know, every time he's out there, you look at the power play. Like even last night, just the one goal on the board, it was Kean who scored it, but it was a power play marker. It was just great puck movement. And a guy like that just brings that extra confidence there to everybody on the ice there that he's out there with. And we've seen it. I mean, you look at the guys that he's playing with now. I mean, Ben Portner. How about this guy? I mean, he's been incredible this year. He's been a perfect complement to Bell. For my money, one of the best two-way players in the league this season. And then a guy like, on the opposite wing, Braden Sinclair, who's really completed that line here as of late as well. I mean, another one of these guys, just ultimate skills, scored a couple of goals in their first game as a trio together in Larange. All three guys pitching in with 3-point games. And for Sinclair, he scored his first one on a breakaway, dancing through the defense, slipping it home past the goaltender. And then his second one was maybe even nicer. It was a backhand spinorama, top cheese. So, it really is just a line. They take the fans out of their seats. And, it's an entertainment business, the game of hockey there. And for Kean Bell, he's one of these guys bringing fans out of their seats every night.
And a newcomer for the North Stars that I wanted to touch on with you, too, who's gotten a lot of praise on SJHL Weekly and even on SJHL Insider on this show. And of course, he would have gotten a lot of attention if he didn't already have a commitment. That's Carson Olson of the North Stars on the blue line. Obviously, in his first year with the North Stars, he gets his Division I commitment just before the SJHL Showcase. I want to ask you just how impressed you've been with him early on this season, but how have you seen his game grow from the beginning of the season to what you saw last night? Because obviously when you come into your first year in the SJHL, in junior hockey, there is going to be an adjustment period.
That's right. I used to think the same thing, that there was an adjustment period, but you look at Carson Olson here, what he's been able to do, and I'm not so sure anymore. Certainly for him, I mean, he's a guy who just stepped right in and right out of camp. I mean, not only made the team as a 17-year-old, but made it as the top pairing partner with Tanner Gold. And, if you know one thing about Tanner Gold, I know he's second in defenseman scoring there. He brings that offense as well. But he's out there every shift against the opposition's best when the North Stars can get that matchup. And for Carson Olson, he's right there step for step along with them. And it's really been remarkable to see. I think obviously the biggest thing that stands out is his mobility on the back end. He could skate as well as anybody I've seen. I've been in junior hockey now. It's my 6th year calling between the SJ and then the one season in the MJ before coming over. And he's as good as it gets as far as skating. And one of those guys as well, like the truly elite players, he could skate well automatically there, like generally. But when he picks up the puck, it's almost like he hits an extra gear. And it's something special to watch. And obviously the offensive numbers speak for themselves. They're right up amongst the rookie leaders in point production. But it's also that defensive acumen. I posted a little video clip on Twitter just earlier in the season there following a game against Humboldt because, we saw him on the defensive side of things as well. A guy like Travis Bryson, 6'3", about 200 pounds for Humboldt. He's a powerful guy, a strong winger. He was clicking at about a goal a game early on in the season. And I remember first game of the season series there, Bryson's got the puck and he's taking it down low and Olsen's just working him over against the boards there. And ends up blocking the shot there, putting his stick out there just as he was releasing that puck to send it high. And I thought that was just a great encapsulation of what Olson brings. It's the offensive, dynamic playmaking element, but it's also that ability to use that skating stride, use his strength on his skates to leverage the opposition forwards, keep his man to the outside, and really just be a nightmare to play against. So, yeah, he's been a real treat to watch there. And it's certainly a real fan fave. You could tell early on every time, like I said about Kean Bell, when Olson's got that puck on his stick, the fans are coming to the edge of their seat. They know something's going to happen.
Yeah, and another player out of Warman. We continue to see great SJHL players coming out of the community of Warman. Final question for you, Marty. This weekend, a big home and home for the North Stars against the Nipawin Hawks. Of course, two teams that I think a lot of people in the SJHL thought would be in the race this year when it comes to the SJHL standings. What do you expect from this home and home this weekend?
Yeah, I just expect more great hockey. You look at even the season series between these two teams, and they're not division rivals. They haven't had a ton of playoff history as of late. It was that the shortened playoff a couple of years ago. They played in the first round, just got the 4 games in. But I'll tell you what, every time these teams play, it's just a couple of blue collar communities there. They like their hockey, physical. They like it action packed, and both teams deliver. So I'm looking forward to seeing it. For the Battlefords, they're going to be having a little bit of a chip on their shoulder there, looking to get back on the winning track there. I know, obviously, big news anytime the big winning streak is snapped. But for the North Stars, looking to get right back on track. And then, as you mentioned, for Nipawin, I mean, they're a bright team as well. They got nothing but upside there, and I'm expecting a real great home and home. And I'm loving these home and homes. North Stars have had a lot of them here through the early part of the season, and it really helps build a little bit of that familiarity with the different teams, and you see a little bit of that animosity, a bit of that emotion creep into the game, playing those games in close succession. So I can't wait to get it started here. I know we just played, the North Stars just played last night, but I'm already ready for some more SJHL hockey and looking forward to getting back in the booth.
Yeah, a lot of firepower on both sides between the North Stars and the Nipawin Hawks. Marty, thanks so much for your time. We really appreciate it as always, and have a great call this weekend.
Hey, absolutely. And thanks again for having me on there, Jeremy, Clark, and team. Always appreciate it. Always happy to jump on. Let me know anytime.
That is the play-by-play voice of the Battlefords North Stars, Mr. Marty Martinson. Always good to chat hockey with Marty. And even after, I guess Battlefords and Melfort's not that far of a bus ride, is it?
No.
That'd be about, what, 2.5 hours?
Yeah.
2.5 hours? I guess it's not that bad. Okay, well.
No.
Marty, I don't feel as bad for
He
you.
might catch a quick nap, though, the way he can fall asleep, like he said.
Yeah, but have you seen his articles?
Well, yeah.
He writes a lot.
That's true.
In-depth articles. So
Yeah.
he might be...
Might get 20 minutes.
Maybe. Quick little cat nap.
Yeah.
All right, let's preview the weekend. Upcoming busy weekend in the SJHL. 5 games Friday, 5 games Saturday, 1 on Sunday. Let's take a look at the schedule. Flin Flon playing 3-3 this weekend in the Parkland region. It kicks off Friday in Yorkton against the Terriers. Notre Dame and Weyburn, that one is being played in Radville. Best of luck to Nick Nielsen and Jamie Neugebauer. Jamie will probably be calling that game from the penalty box. The Melfort Mustangs and Humboldt Broncos, they play a home-and-home this weekend. It kicks off Friday, of course, in Melfort. Kindersley is at home. They return home after a pretty successful week last week. 7 out of a possible 10 points as they play host to the Laurent Ice Wolves. And then there's Battlefords and Nipawin, as we touched on with Marty. Sliding over to Saturday, another 5 games, Battlefords Nipawin. Flin Flon continues that trip against Melville. There's that Highway 39 rivalry matchup between Weyburn and Estevan I teased earlier. Second half of the home-and-home between Humboldt and Melfort, and then Kindersley and Laurent again. Then on Sunday, the last game of the week in the SJHL, Flin Flon, their 3rd game in 3 nights against the Yorkton Terriers. Of course, a rematch from Friday's game. Note the start time, 5 o'clock. All right, so 11 games to choose from, Clark. Mm-hmm. What is your game of the weekend?
I'm going to go with Marty sold me. I'm going Battlefords Nipawin. Okay. Now, when we talked about the standings earlier, we talked about how hot Battlefords has been and how Nipawin's trying to push into that top tier, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
So I look at that series this weekend as a chance for both teams to really kind of put a stamp on how those two teams play against each other, but for Nipawin to maybe make a bit of a statement against one of the hottest teams. Like Battlefords is 9-1-0 in their last 10, 9-1 in their last 10. And, Nipawin has a lot of firepower on the team. We've talked about their offense most of the year. Really loving Artem Krabovetsky. As his fit with the Nipawin Hawks has been really nice. And I think just, that team looking to push their way into that top 4, get closer anyways. And I think this is a big chance for them to really, it's going to be difficult,
right?
Very tough proponent, right. But a really good chance to put a stamp on some stuff and really send a message.
I'll say there's a lot of intriguing ones this weekend.
Yes.
For sure.
There's a lot of good choices.
A lot of intriguing ones. And I'll take the layup. And I'll take the Saturday, Estevan and Weyburn. Mm-hmm. I mean, they played the same amount of games. They have the same amount of points. And they're tied in the SJHL standings going into, of course, and right now, if if playoffs started today, obviously they're fighting for playoff spot.
Yeah, it's a huge game.
And really, like I mentioned, right now the Viterra division is nuts. 4 points separating all 4 teams. So any games involving those teams, and then especially when they play each other, it's going to be even bigger. So if one of those teams can get a regulation win, obviously that's going to do wonders for them.
Yeah.
And of course, Estevan's coming off that big win over the Hounds, and Weyburn's coming off that tough loss at home to Humboldt. They'll be looking to try and get back in the win column. So it should be an intriguing matchup at Affinity Place. But like I mentioned earlier, you look up and down this weekend at the games, and there's a lot of interesting ones.
Yeah, Humboldt Melfort stands out too. Like
even I think Kindersley returning home after getting 7 out of a possible 10 points in 5 games in 6 days last week.
Yeah,
for 2 games at home, and I think I'm like 95% sure this weekend's their parents' weekend, which is a big one for Kindersley, and it's also Humboldt's parents' weekend. I know that too.
Yes.
Rory was telling us
Rory was saying that,
so a couple parents' weekends this weekend as
big
well.
Crowds expected for Humboldt's family weekend too, right? Rory was saying over, what did he say, like 150,
which is kind of cool because they're also playing a road game.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
I mean, Humboldt and Melfort aren't that far away.
Yeah, close.
But so that'll be a fun home and home, and they'll have a little bit of road support in Melfort tomorrow night. But yeah, I mean, up and down this week. I think there's a lot of good matchups, and but for me, the one, and I mentioned it on Monday too, it's just right now my eyes are kind of focused on that Viterra division because they currently sit all 4 teams 6, 7, 8, 10. In the SJHL standings.
Yeah, and you know what, Jeremy? We were talking about the top 10 scorers, and we mentioned no Viterra division players were in the top 10 of scoring. And I was scrolling down a little bit while you were talking to Marty and just kind of clicking around. And right below the top 10, Keegan Little and Ilya Chmielewski are right there.
Chmielewski.
Thank you.
Nice try.
Thank you. I was close. But I was looking at their numbers, and in their last 11 games, both those players have multiple multi-point games, and only 2 games have they not scored a point in the last 11. Both of them in different games, obviously. But those 2 players, they're popping their numbers up a little bit, and we expected Keegan Little to be a guy near the top of the league this year. And you know the way he's been playing lately, and the way that team has kind of been going up a little bit with the points in the last 11 games, trending upwards. So we'll see. Maybe Estevan's on their way up.
Well, they're up and down.
Yeah.
I mean, they've been up and down.
Yeah.
Seems like all year. It's, they won 5, they lost 3. And then now, of course, they bounced back against Notre Dame, which was a big bounce back win, obviously, for the Bruins. But lots of great hockey this weekend in the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League. 5 games Friday, 5 games Saturday. And then, of course, the game on Sunday, which, of course, get out to your local rink, support your local team. If not, go to Get Your Flow Hockey subscription. Get your Flow Hockey subscription. That's how you're going to stay up to date with everything in the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League when it comes to watching the games. But of course, if you want to stay up to date with everything in the SJHL, follow us on all the social media platforms, Facebook, X, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, you name it. We're past 1,100 subscribers on YouTube, which is very exciting. So thank you so much for your support. All you got to do is log in with your Gmail, sign in, hit subscribe. It's free. It's as easy as that. And then when you open up YouTube, the SJHL videos will just pop up, and they're right there for you. It's as easy as that. And of course, we have to give a big thanks to all of our great sponsors here at the SJHL. All of our shows, Insider, Weekly, all of our specials, they're presented by UPL, but also a big thank you to Bourgault, Cantera Seats, Capital Automall, Chevrolet, Great Western Nutrient, RBC, Saskatchewan Construction Safety Association, Sask Lotteries, Tourism Saskatchewan, UPL, Sask Energy, SGEU, SGI. Thanks so much for your support. Without your support, these shows would not be possible. Clark, final thought before we wrap things up?
It's another, the weather has been great so far. And Jeremy, we were talking on the way home from Mormon. I'll make this quick.
Knock on wood.
Yes. But we were talking, and you put out the date, any day after October 15th, I think it was, where there's not much snow on the ground.
Correct.
Is a blessing for Saskatchewan.
It's a great day.
And there hasn't been much snow on the ground. Again, where's all of it?
Keep it up.
Yeah, keep it up.
Keep it up.
But what that means is roads are good. Travel's not that bad.
Absolutely.
If you're not in a market, but you're close,
absolutely,
this is the time to get to a game because the snow's coming at some point, but it's not quite here yet most of the province. So get out to these games. The fan bases have been rabid so far, great crowds, but make them better, and it's a lot of fun. So get out there.
Absolutely. That's a very good point. Yeah, roads are great right now. Attendance is up
Yeah.
in the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League.
Radville, get to the rink. I'm sure that rink's going to be packed. But
Oh yeah, that game will be
for
awesome.
that game. But
that'll be a great game. And
find a game,
And you
get
know
to
what?
it.
I'll say this: if you're going to Radville, and you see Nugsy, somebody get him a hot chocolate.
a blanket.
Get him a blanket, heated seat maybe.
They have those heated jackets now.
I'm not making a joke. He's actually calling the game probably from the penalty box.
Yeah.
So he's going to be a little chilly.
Yeah.
So maybe somebody bring him a cup of chili.
No, that's not a xylophone on his broadcast. Those are his teeth chattering.
Could be.
You know? He's cold down there.
Yeah,
That's a cold spot, the
Yeah,
penalty
it is.
box.
That is.
I mean, in the rink in general, probably a little bit chilly, but on the ice level, in the penalty box,
Yeah. My thoughts are with Nugsy
bring a space heater.
and also his equipment, because
Yeah.
hopefully if his equipment can get through the broadcast, that'll be impressive as it is. Anyways, Radville, get out to Radville, get out to your local rinks.
Get it out. Get out
especially
there.
if you're in the area, because it's going to be a great weekend of hockey, but the roads are great. And enjoy the nice roads while they last, because eventually the snow is going to come.
It is this
So-
province, everyone. We know
So,
this.
11 games on tap this weekend in the SJHL, so get out to your local rink, support your local team. If not, subscribe to Flow Hockey and watch all the games from the comfort of your own home. For Clark Monroe, my name is Jeremy Corrigan. This has been another great edition of SJHL Insider. Thanks so much for tuning in, and enjoy the games this weekend, everyone.